Hey, what's up, everybody? Garrett Rumley here with Duty to Train. I wanted to talk to you today about a schism that's happening on the right in the conservative movement in America, and something that, frankly, is a little scary, a little nerve wracking, and frankly, also really annoying. And that is that what happened in Israel has like created this huge divide, and people are getting like really emotional, and I think making poor decisions when it comes to having conversations with other people about this topic. And a good example of this, and I want to kind of keep these videos short so that they're easy to watch and easy to follow. But Candace Owens has basically been kind of an America first. Like, listen, we don't have to support Israel and everything that they do. And Ben Shapiro, they both work at the Daily Wire. If you don't know, Ben Shapiro is a co-owner of the Daily Wire, a huge conservative media outlet. And they hired Candace Owens, I don't know, 2, 3 years ago, something like that. And Owens has always been, she hasn't shied away from controversial statements, right? And they knew that when they hired her. And one thing that I've listened to Ben Shapiro for a really long time, I've heard him say over and over again when people get fired for, in the past from kind of getting canceled. And he's like, if you knew what they were like when you hired them, it's not fair to fire them for something that they did just because you're like getting pressure or something like that. And Candace Owens has basically said like America first, Palestinian kids are just as important as Israeli kids, and like tons of Palestinian kids are dying, tons of innocent people in Palestine are dying. And Ben Shapiro is basically like, okay, yeah, that's all Hamas's fault. And there was a video that came out, and it was Ben Shapiro. It looked like he was kind of at a private event, and he was slamming Candace Owens and called her right here. I just pulled up a tweet explaining it, but pro-Israel Shapiro stated this week Candace's behavior, faux sophistication in particular, regarding Israel's response to October 7th has been despicable. And this kind of made the rounds on social media, especially on Twitter. And another thing I've heard, I also like Megan Kelly, but she kind of like attacked Candace as well, because Candace has been talking about how, people in college who've been like supporting Hamas. And here's the thing, I totally understand that, and I agree with that. If you support Hamas, like if you come out and you say, oh, I support Hamas, I think you kind of should get blacklisted. Like there is a difference between supporting terrorists and what happened on the left, where it's like, if you didn't post a black square or if you did something so stupid, there's a massive difference. But what I take issue with is the fact that Megan Kelly went after Candace Owens because she was basically just making a different argument. Like, we are literally, and I said this in the last video, but like, I don't agree with Biden on a whole lot, but we are in a battle for like the future and the soul of this nation. Like, one side wants, freedom. The other side wants a lot of government control, bigger government, and not everybody on the right is for freedom. It's annoying that politicians on the right cannot get their act together and reduce spending and lower taxes and actually make some positive improvements, because they're not willing to like take the hit. And anyway, I don't agree with everything that Candace Owens says, and I don't agree with her on her views on Israel, but she is a advocate and a teammate on the conservative movement. And it seems like we've gotten to the point now where if this continues to grow and one side gets stronger than the other, it's going to turn into like a conservative cancel culture type thing. And we've been literally fighting this for like 7, 8 years. And now, Ben Shapiro, I don't know if he mentions it here. Yeah, right here. Candace, if you feel okay, so she said, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Because she's basically saying, listen, I'm going to say what I want, and I don't care if Ben Shapiro doesn't like it. She was kind of like saying that in like a sly way. And so Ben Shapiro says, Candace, if you feel that taking money from the Daily Wire somehow comes between you and God, by all means quit. And like he says this on social media, and like, Ben, you're smarter than this, dude. Like, what are you doing? You're getting emotionally attached. You're making unsound decisions. You're getting emotionally charged. And like, I get it. He has like tons of family members, but this is what happened after 9/11. This is why the Patriot Act got passed, because people lost their minds. They weren't able to make sound and rational decisions. And this is how tyranny like escalates. When the Patriot Act got passed, everyone And I was like really young at the time. I was like 10 years old, but I've read a lot about it, and everybody knows now that that it allowed the government to spy on American citizens. And they were like, "Oh, if we don't do this, then we're not going to be able to fight the terrorists. And if you're against this, then you're against America." And now the same arguments are being made for Israel. So my whole point of this video is like, listen, whether or not you agree with Israel's stance, like if you're Candace and you're like, listen, we don't have to support Israel in everything that they do, or you're Ben Shapiro and you're like, yes, you do, because we have to get rid of Hamas. Like, we need to be able to have these conversations on the right, because the left doesn't seem to be able to have conversations, but it also seems like we're falling into the same trap. And the left in the past 5 years has gotten so emotionally charged, and they've almost lost the ability to have rational conversations and like talk to somebody they disagree with and say, okay, I totally disagree with you. I understand what you're saying and I totally disagree, but I'm not going to like cancel you on that. And because we're like in a fight for the future of the country and which way it's going to go, Candace Owens is not someone that you should make an enemy out of. Like, you can say, listen, I disagree with you, but you don't say quit. Like, that's like conservative cancel culture. She should be allowed to speak her mind. And she went on Tucker Carlson the other night, and Tucker Carlson's like Team Candace, like Megyn Kelly's like Team Ben Shapiro. I believe, actually, I shouldn't say that because I haven't seen her actually come out on this specific topic, but she came out and like attacked Candace Owens and called her out for being like kind of pro college student, and based because Candace Owens started like really left when she was in college, and then she kind of like converted over to conservatism. And her argument was that if she was a college student today, she would have been in that group. So she's like, don't throw away all these college students. Like, we have to recruit them into our ranks. And if you just throw them away because of stupid decisions, because they've been indoctrinated, it's like you can disagree with that. But Megyn Kelly called around, was like, oh, good luck with like your job search or whatever. Basically saying, oh, you're going to get fired. And then she tagged at Daily Wire. And then Candace Owens is like, what do you do? Why are you tagging the Daily Wire? Like, you want me to get fired? And it's just like people are getting really emotionally charged about this. And it's not okay. It's not okay. It's okay to get emotionally charged, but you have to put that in check, because otherwise things like the Patriot Act get passed. Now the government can just spy on us at will, and there's nothing we can do about it because we couldn't maintain our composure during a time of fear. And right now there's a lot of fear. And that's when government takes over, and that's when government gets bigger. It's just, everybody on the right for a really long time has been like, oh, the left, government will, they never let an opportunity go to waste. Well, it seems like people on the right are more than happy to be like, oh, you don't agree with me? Oh, well, then, just quit, or good luck searching for a job. And it's this weird thing that I did not see coming. And all of a sudden, Hamas attacks Israel. Israel defends itself, and now it's getting ugly. And it's like kind of splintering the right. And right now is not a time where we need to be splintering. Like, we need to be focused on, okay, I disagree with you on this, but we're still on the same side. And I could just see this like breaking, the conservative movement. And if we're like infighting, we're not going to be able to. The real problem, which in my opinion is leftism, not liberalism, but like leftism, Marxists. Like, there are real communists and socialists in this country. And that needs to be taken care of. And if you disagree with Candace Owens on how she wants to deal with Israel, okay, fine. But it seems like there's so much effort going into that it's almost, we've forgotten like what the real battle is. And it's frankly a little bit troubling. So I want to just leave it there. Just to sum up my views, because I want to be open about where I'm at. I believe that Israel has every right to defend itself. War is really evil, and war is really ugly. It's not evil per se. It's not evil to defend yourself. It's really ugly. And I think we've become accustomed to like these kind of like weak wars, like, oh, like 6,000 people died. Like, that's, we have to like have a ceasefire or whatever. What happens when like the real war comes around? Like, this might be the real war. And I don't mean to, fearmonger or whatever, but I don't think our civilization or the world really is prepared for like what a real war looks like. And when you're faced with real evil, it requires a real war. And that means civilians dying. And that like sucks. That sucks. But, it's true. Like when we had to fight the Nazis, like how many civilians died? I'll maybe go into that in a future video, but it's so many civilians died. And we didn't stop fighting the Nazis Like, what, I'll look this up real quick. The bombing of Dresden. Bombing of Dresden. 25 to 35,000 civilians died in Dresden in the air attacks, though some estimate are as high as 250, given the influx of undocumented refugees. Most of the victims. Yeah, it was a British and American aerial bombing attack on the city of Dresden, capital of the German state of Saxony during World War II. So just to like put it into perspective, I mean, this was three more US 16 up to 20, three more USAAF air raids followed, two occurring on 2 March and one smaller raid on 17th of April. In 4 raids between the 13th and the 15th of February. So in 2 days, they killed 25 to 35,000 people, and so historically, you have to put this all into perspective. Like, this is how wars are fought, and it sucks. But when Hamas attacked Israel, they knew that Israel was going to come back, and Hamas hides behind civilians. So, I don't think that Israel's strategy is very good, because I was listening to, what's his name? He's the guy that wakes up every morning, takes a picture of his watch. Jocko Willink. He's a Navy SEAL, has a great podcast, and he said that basically Israel is kind of making the same mistakes that the U.S. did back when we started kind of like the war on terrorism. We just started bombing everybody, and it created a lot more terrorists. And so, even though I do believe that Israel has a right to defend itself, and I think we have to back them up, I think that hopefully a lot of our generals are talking to them and be like, hey, we have to like scale this back, and if you really want to get rid of Hamas and not create like a bigger issue, you have to figure out a way to go in there and actually get Hamas, not just bomb the city and basically kill all the civilians, but while Hamas is underground, you basically do nothing to them. So I support Israel and what they're doing. I don't think it's a good strategy, but this is on Hamas. But I don't know, that's where I stand. And just want to kind of make that clear. But when Candace Owens is talking about civilian deaths, and if anyone calls for a ceasefire, I'm not like, oh, you should lose your job. It's like, I totally disagree with you. But if we agree on lots of different things, we need to like put our emotions in check, listen to other arguments, and you can vehemently disagree. You don't have to be like, oh, okay. You can be like, I totally disagree, but you don't say quit or lose your job or anything like that. That's cancel culture, and we're better than that. So again, when it comes to people who like legitimately support Hamas, like if you support terrorism, yeah, you shouldn't get a job. Like you're supporting terrorism. That's a lot different than saying, hey, I have issues with killing 6,000 civilians, and you can disagree with that. But if you're like openly, there's a drastic difference between openly supporting Hamas and then saying, hey, like maybe we need a ceasefire, even though I don't agree with the ceasefire. I can understand the argument and know that like your heart is in the right place. If you support Hamas, your heart is not in the right place, and there is a difference, and we need to understand that. So hopefully, I don't know, we can get our emotions in check as Americans and in the world. But until next time, stay safe, live free, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya.